This is Treasury 360 with me, Kojo Arthur, and today the Bank of Ghana's guidelines for the multiple price foreign exchange forward auctions are out, and we'll be explaining what it means to you. Here we are with the Bank of Ghana guidelines for allocation of foreign exchange through forward auctions. Now, this is the central bank supporting the market with the supply of foreign currency, particularly the US dollar, to support imports and other dividend payments, etc., of banks' clients. Now, this part of the guideline explains why the central bank wants to do this, and the first one is to further aid in price discovery, which is important, and which will also lead to the deepening of the FX market, and then reduce uncertainty of future availability of FX. And this point, I'll just give a small reason why this is important. Now, if dollar prices are going up, CD is depreciating, and you have a demand that you need to pay your suppliers in a month's time, you would rather borrow money today and acquire these dollars today for payment in a month's time, thereby putting more pressure on the dollar availability. However, if you are certain that you could get this dollar you need in a month's time, you'd invest your CD, or you would wait and not bring your demand onto the market immediately. And so this is a good reason. And then the final one is to meet the FX needs of bank clients, which is self-explanatory. So that's this part of the guideline. So moving on to the first part that says publication of the foreign exchange auction calendar. Now I'll send a link to this quarter's calendar, and you can click on it to see the calendar, but it says it will publish it on the website of the Bank of Ghana. And then we move on to eligibility. Now, who can partake in these auctions? And the guideline says it is open to licensed foreign exchange dealing banks. So if you're a client, you can't participate directly in the auction, but you can benefit from it through your bank. And so that is clear. Now, the eligible currency and quotation convention, I'm sure it's just the regular USD against Ghana cedi on a forward basis at the various tenors, which is 7-day, 15-day, 30-day, 45, 60, and 75 days from the day of the auction. So if you needed money in 7 days and the auction was today, you would enter into this forward transaction and you have your USD in 7 days time. Then we move on to the quotation. Now the quotation is still the same for decimal places. All right, go on to the next page, which says the auction. Number 3 on the guideline is the auction schedule and frequency. Now the auction schedule will be as announced, dates as announced quarterly on the quarterly calendar, which I'll send a link, and it will be held on Tuesdays, and if it's a national holiday, it will be moved to the next business day, which is quite clear. Now the bidding process, point number 4 on the guidelines, says first, the submission of bids will be via an email, and each bank is permitted to submit a maximum of 3 bids. 3 bids per tenor. So for 7 days, you can bid 3 different amounts. For 15 days, you bid 3 different amounts, and so on. And you bid at a freely determined exchange rate. I'll do a video about how to determine your exchange rates for this particular auction. Be sure to subscribe and get notification when I do this. And the minimum bid size will be 500,000 US dollars and subsequent multiples of 250,000 US dollars. So it means you can bid a minimum of 500,000, and if you needed more, you'd bid 750 and then 1 million. All right, no broken amounts, no amounts lower than 500,000. Okay, so we know where the minimum is, and now let's look at the maximum size. The maximum shall not exceed 10% of the announced auction target. So you first need to know the target, and then you bid not more than 10% of that target in one single tenor. All right. So in 7 days, you can bid 3 different bids with a minimum of 500,000, but this should not exceed 10% of the total amount of USD offered in the auction. Okay, now the cumulative volume of all bids from any single bank shall not exceed 20%. So it means that all your bids in 7 day, 15, 45, 60, etc. should not be more than 20% of the total amount of USD on auction. Next, we have the bids with incomplete, missing information or submitted after the deadline shall not be accepted, which is okay. It means that you need to respect the deadline and respect the rules up here. Next is also bids exceeding the maximum single bid amount or lower than the minimum bid amount shall not be accepted. Okay, okay. Now the BoG reserves the right to reject the bid placed at the lowest exchange rate in the case of a sell auction. So it means that it doesn't mean that if you bid the lowest and they are selling, they are going to sell to you. And the highest exchange rate in the case of a buy auction, if bids of any bank exceed the cumulative volume limit. Okay, this is self-explanatory. Now the next says each bid is final, so you can't call and reverse anything. You can't change once you submit your bid. That's it. Then we go to the allocation methodology. Now the multiple price auction would be fixed volume format, right? So if you win your bid, they're not going to break it down. They'll give it to you 500,000 as the minimum, or 750 or 1 million. So it's a fixed volume, and the cutoff rate would clear the target volume offered in the said auction. So once the target is met, that will be the cutoff rate. Then the amount rule requires that not less than 25% of the auction target is allocated, to bracket the failed auction. So because of the amount rule, they want to ensure that 25% success rate is guaranteed before they will declare it a failed auction. Now the general principle followed will be the amount accepted at the auction be kept close to the announced volume with a probable variance of plus or minus 10% of auction target. So the central bank advertises 50 million. They want to achieve 50 million plus or minus 10%. Then we move on to auction committee. Okay, so BoG staff will be appointed by the governor and shall oversee this. and decide on the cutoff. Okay, so these are the people. Only authorized BoG officials may be present during the auction. So you submit your bids and you patiently wait for the results. On page 3, more guidelines for communication of auction results. FX auction results will be announced by 2 p.m. Now this is interesting because I've never seen the auction results come out at 2 p.m. There's confirmation and settlement of trade. Okay, so unless otherwise announced, the settlement period for the auction shall be the day of the trade. Settlement, so payment, this is interesting. The payment of the CD leg will be the same day. The FX obligation is settled at the end of the applicable tenor. Now this is a very crucial point, so I'll pause here. Now what they are saying is that when you bid and you win the bid, central bank will debit your CD leg immediately you win the bid. However, the supply of the foreign exchange, which is the USD, will be at the end of the applicable tenor. Okay. Now, BoG dealers shall call FX dealers of the successful banks via the Reuters dealing. I think this should be reading Refinitiv because it's now Refinitiv, to confirm and conclude trades that accepted bids, right, to facilitate straight-through processing settlement. Yeah, most banks have straight-through processing settlement from Refinitiv, so that's good. Now, funding. Successful banks shall debit the receiving customers' accounts for the CD equivalent of the bids. This is also a crucial point. Up here, it said it was going to debit the CD leg the same day. So central bank, the guidelines is saying that banks should debit customers with the CD equivalent the same day as well. All right, I'll talk more on this, but let's see. BoG shall also debit successful authorized dealer banks. Okay, so the bank's account will also be debited with the CD equivalent on the same day. So what this does is to take away artificial demand from the market. And I'll explain why. If there's a client that is looking for, say, $5 million, and this client has relationships with 3 banks, the relationship managers of these banks would get this information from the client that it's looking to do a transfer of $5 million. These relationship managers will transmit this information to the Treasury. There are separate treasuries of these separate 3 banks, and the Treasury FX dealers will be on the market shopping for the best rate to acquire $5 million for one client. So we have a demand of $15 million on the market, but just one client looking for $5 million. Now this increases the demand and pushes the rate higher. So if central bank is, if the successful banks are debiting the customer's account, it means that the customer can only pass this information to one bank, which means that bank is the bank that is going to bid for the client because it has to secure the CD in the customer's accounts before it sends the bid. So this is good. Number 10 is other provisions. Okay, so this is talking about FX conduct rules, right? So the conduct rules remain the same, and in particular, the banks are reminded to comply strictly with the regulations in respect of foreign exchange exposure limits in the NOP. Now, the NOP stands for the net open position, which is how long or short a bank is in any foreign currency. There's currently a 5% single currency and an aggregate of 10% limit on how long or short a bank can go. And this also says All authorized foreign exchange dealer banks shall also comply with provisions of the Code of Conduct, which is here. And finally, the bank reserves the right to amend these rules, of course, based on observations and prevailing circumstances. Overall, I think this is interesting for the market. I will be, in my next video, be showcasing how to bid or compute your forward prices for this auction. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for notification, hit the bell button, and get updated on how the banks are bidding for your forward auctions.